Good afternoon and welcome to the Chad and Louise show. I nearly forgot what my own name was. So great start. Welcome. If you're watching us live, please say hello in the comments or the sidebar. If you're watching this on catch up, I'll put some links in so that you can find us afterwards and you can ask any questions you wish to. So Chad and I have these series of shows once a month where we chat with people who know an awful lot more than me. And today we're talking programmatic with Thomas Prince. Before we start, Chad, while you're having a cup of tea, coffee, presumably?
Coffee, yeah.
Sorry.
Don't do that tea thing.
No, sorry. Would you like to introduce yourself? Everyone knows you, but you better still do it.
Hello, all. My name is Chad Sowash, also known as the Chad from the Chad and Cheese podcast. If you don't know me, that's a shame. You should be listening to the podcast first and foremost. Second, just go to LinkedIn, search Chad Sowash, Sowash. I am the only one in the world. Check me out, connect, and that's me.
Cool. I'm quite tempted to change one of my children's name by deed poll. Now you've said that.
To do what?
I'm not sure it's true. I'm not sure this is true. I think this might be fake news. There's got to be another Chad Sowash somewhere.
There's not.
Nope.
I'm going to find him.
Yeah, so am I. In actual fact, I'm going to rename one of my kids.
Oh, I would be greatly honored. That would be. They wouldn't, but I would be.
No, it's petrifying, isn't it? She won't like it at all. So, Thomas, please introduce yourself.
My name's Thomas. You already know that. I'm one of the co-founders at Talent Nexus. We're a recruitment marketing agency. We're based in Surbiton in the UK. And we help job boards, staffing firms, and direct employers with their recruitment marketing.
Okay, fabulous. So we're talking about programmatic today. I guess you've just said about the type of people you work with. Before I get you to describe, both of you to describe what programmatic is, who are we talking to here on this show? Are we talking to staffing agencies? Are we talking to direct hirers, vendors? Who is it? Thomas?
Ultimately all of the above. I think the use cases are different, the benefits are very different, but ultimately, direct employers can benefit hugely from taking a programmatic approach to their recruitment advertising. We should probably cover what that means in a second. Like staffing firms, absolutely, should already be doing it. Job boards are kind of unique in that they can buy traffic programmatically, but they can also sell traffic programmatically. So actually, of all the three groups, job boards have got the most to kind of wrestle with and get their head around. But yeah, it's definitely relevant to all of those groups.
Okay, so I know Thomas has got a really good explanation of what programmatic is. Chad, have you heard it before?
Yes, and believe it or not, I can actually spell it, unlike most talent acquisition professionals. I think, from my standpoint, as Thomas had said, that staffing, RPO, those organizations where recruiting is their business. If they're not doing programmatic and they're watching this right now, you are way fucking behind the ball. This is a great way for you to actually be more efficient. And really, it's one of those conversations we've been having around robots versus humans and cutting out some of those menial tasks that humans are actually doing on a daily basis that they really don't need to do. And it really is like a sucky job. So why not have the robots do it? So that's kind of like my overview of what programmatic is. Thomas can give you a much more eloquent version.
Okay, cool.
I wouldn't say eloquent. I've got an analogy for you. Would an analogy help?
It would, because I have to say, I've got confused about whether it was about automation, whether it's about I don't know, machine learning, what it was, and whether it was something which you had to buy in. So if you want to tell us,
don't forget blockchain, AI,
RPA. Don't forget, RPA is big now.
Right. So it's a verb programmatically. It's not a noun. It's not a programmatic. You can't have programmatics plural. So which we hear. How many programmatics do we need? I
want a T-shirt like that.
Yeah, right. I'm a programmatics expert. That's the t-shirt. So the way so direct employers, from their perspective, the way we explain it, and it's the same with staffing firms actually. Programmatic is a level of automation. So you've got like manual, automated, programmatic, and then maybe up here there's like AI-driven, super automated. You didn't even think about it and it happened. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about another level of automation. So the analogy is your weekly Sainsbury's shop. Other supermarkets are available. So the manual version of that is you go to the store, you put stuff in your thing, you drive it home, you whack it in the fridge. The automatic version of that is online shopping. The programmatic is different from automatic. In that you need two things. You need a little bit of upfront investment and you need some rules. So in this case, we're going to go with smart fridge, and I'm going to sit down with my wife and go, right, like we could agree on this. Every week, we want 2 pints of milk in the fridge at all times. So my smart fridge is looking at how much milk is in the fridge. As soon as it goes below 2 pints of milk, orders me some milk. So the difference between that and automatic is that I've had to put a little bit of time up front, and it is tech enabled. You need tech to do programmatic. You need to be able to set those rules. Once you do that up front, you never think about it again. There's just milk in the fridge. And then you just manage it by exception. I'm going on holiday. I don't need milk. I go in and change my rules. But otherwise, it just runs and runs and runs. So in recruitment, the analogy would be like the manual version is, got a job to fill, phone up job board, buy a credit, email the job over, or upload it through their kind of web-based thing. Automatic would be maybe something like Broadbean. Programmatic would be sit down at the start of the year. What are the two things I need? A bit of tech and some rules. So the bit of tech is a programmatic buying tool, and there's lots of those that exist in the recruitment space now. And the rules would be something like, okay, whenever a customer service job comes onto our careers website, I want that I want that on all these aggregators, I want it on all these job boards, I want it on social, I want this, I want that. And every job of that type, 500 quid budget. And you set that up at the beginning of the year, you assign the money, you set it up, and then every customer service provider that comes to your site automatically, or dare I say programmatically, gets distributed, gets the response you need. And you might have a completely different set of rules for your engineers. You might have a completely different set of rules for, C-suite or whatever. So you set it all up at the beginning of the year, and then you just monitor and evaluate. And the role of a programmatic agency like ours is to keep an eye on those rules, make sure that you're getting what you're supposed to be getting for that spend, for the rules that you've put in place. But that's it. It's literally the smart fridge of the recruitment world. It's a step up from automatic. So the benefits are time saving, right? So I've spent half an hour at the beginning of the year trying to work out how much milk I need. But once I've done that, no more ordering of milk. I know, I set it up at the beginning of the year. This is how I want to advertise my customer service roles. I'm not going to think about that for 6 months. And then I'm going to, when my agency tells me it needs improvement, I'm going to talk to them about it. I'm going to forget about it. So it's about time and it's about speed. You don't want to have to be doing decision making every time a new job comes onto your website. You work it out in advance, you let the jobs come on, and it just takes care of itself. So there's so much hype, but at the end of the day, you're still posting jobs in much the same places as you were before. You're still making decisions about where to post jobs and how much to spend on those jobs. None of that changes. You're just doing it like really quickly. You're saving time and ultimately saving money.
Well, and here's the big thing out of the analogy that I think for talent acquisition they need to understand is the amount of time it actually takes. So in your analogy, the smart fridge, first and foremost, there's a pretty big cost up front to be able to get that smart fridge. But to be able to actually take that time that you're saving to go out and buy milk, the travel back, whatever that might be, right? All of that is what your recruiting team is doing on a daily basis. So how much of that time are they actually using every single day or just week to be able to do these little tasks where they could actually be talking to actual human beings? And this is where I believe, once again, bigger tech, better tech helps us be more human because it allows our humans to do more human outreach to real people. Today, it's not being done. People are going into the black hole because they're spending too much time doing stupid shit like this. We can have machines doing it instead. It can be much more efficient and you can put your people to work. So you're actually looking at, better overhead, human resource management, and those types of things as well.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So it seems really easy to me. I guess that what I wonder is you set this up at the beginning of the year and you say, when I've got customer services jobs, this is what I want to do. But what happens if the places where you would normally advertise those customer services job change over the year rather, or there's is there not a fear that you're going to miss out on better places that you should be advertising those jobs if you agree in January?
Yeah, that's a really good point. So that's where you either need some really strong expertise in-house, or much more likely, as with most ad buying in other sectors, in other worlds, you get an ad agency that knows that stuff. Yeah. So they'll be keeping an eye on all the media channels that you're using. So if someone gives us a job, that might end up on 35 different recruitment websites, from the traditional job boards, if you want to call them that, to the aggregators. That's a blurry distinction nowadays, but ultimately we spend about £1.6 million a month on recruitment traffic. So you need data, right, for this to work. So I need to look at the last customer service job that we had on our side, like going through our tech. I need to look at, okay, well, where did that perform well? And it's not just about applications, it's about getting tracking in place that goes way past that, because I've always thought that those channels that produce the most applications tend to produce the least value. Maybe I'm wrong, varies by sector, but I don't think it's a bad rule of thumb. So you need to be able to track past that. So for staffing firms, that's like a qualified registered candidate, or whatever the status is, where a consultant picks up a CV and goes, they go on the database. Right. For direct employers, that might be interviews. It might be hires, it might be placements. That's even better, but you just need some measure of quality in there. So we've got that data feeding back, and then we adjust the media channels day by day as needed.
Well, let's go back into this a little bit deeper, because I think most companies aren't even having the programmatic conversation because they feel almost like it's like SEO. Remember back in the days, SEO was everything. It was like, oh, we need search engine optimization, Google. It was like magic, but nobody really knew how it worked. Right. Some of the SEO consultants were more smoke and mirrors than they were results. So, I mean, people think of programmatic, I think, in that vein. So if you could dive a little bit deeper and talk about process analytics, return on investment, and some of those companies are really afraid that they're going to lose control over their, oh, I love my Monster, or I love my Indeed, or whatever the hell it is, right? They feel like they're going to lose that control, but they don't. So process analytics, ROI, and control. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I think that the reality, as with all these things, is if you've never done it before, it looks more complicated than it actually is. So let's say you went out and engaged a programmatic agency and said, right, we want to get this set up. We want to run a trial, 3-month trial. That'd be a really normal way to get into this. So you would give them a budget. You'd say, okay, £5,000 a month, or £1,000 a month, or £100,000 a month. Doesn't matter what the budget is. That agency would take all the jobs off your website. You could give them a feed of jobs, but what they probably do for speed, they just scrape them, they just grab all those jobs. So the agency now has a budget and a load of jobs, and they're going to sit down with you for 2 hours, and they're going to go, right, these are all the jobs we're seeing on your website. How important are these jobs to you? How much do you want to invest to fill these jobs? When do you want us to stop advertising these jobs? Because you could put a rule in place around anything. So a really typical rule would be, keep advertising this customer services role until I get 50 applications, because I've done my ratios and that's what I need to hire someone, or until I spend £500. Because if I've spent £500 and I haven't got those applications, something's going wrong. We're going to delve into that. We're going to work out what that is. Right. So it's completely hands off from if you're the recruiter sitting there in a staff firm or a direct employer, you don't need to be like logging into tech and like trying to assess all the rules and everything. You work with an account manager. Programmatic agencies, like marketing agencies, you speak with someone like me, and you're like, Thomas, we got to change these rules out. We're getting a whole load of new developer jobs on. I want them to have £1,000 budget each. I want them to go on all these websites. Yeah. And a good programmatic agency will give you complete transparency over where that money is being spent, and you can veto those channels. So we might turn around and go, okay, for these jobs, we're going to put it in these 6 different, job boards / aggregators. And, Chad, you might turn around and go, I'm not spending money with those guys. They're a bunch of whatever. Fine.
Indeed.
Take those out of the list. And so that you retain control over where your jobs go. That's really important. And there's no big tech integrations. Unlike the smart fridge analogy, actually, you don't have to shell out a load of money. It's like you get a free smart fridge.
Like a free smart fridge. Thomas is giving out free smart fridges.
Woohoo!
Big Talent Nexus logo.
This is the worst analogy.
No, it's great. I still like it. See, I understand how this works with your corporate hirer, because you know roughly what jobs are going to be, you know what roles exist in your organisation, and maybe you might change your business model a little bit. But if you're an agency, you don't know what your client's going to come to you with next. So what happens if you're an agency and suddenly you get a new deal and you're doing nurses as a role? Doesn't that mean you have to then spend quite a lot of time having those conversations with someone like you again?
It depends. It depends. No is the simple answer. So most staffing firms will have kind of core areas that they work in, whether that's a discipline or a seniority band or whatever it is. Those ones, we'd sit down, we'd work out what the rules are. But equally, they could take any random job from anywhere. For those ones, you kind of would do one or two things. You either just block them, you don't advertise those jobs because it's more hassle than it's worth trying to set it all up. Or you say, right, you're the programmatic agency, you take care of it. Advertise those jobs where you know we're going to get decent results. Okay. And you just kind of outsource it. And you'd have your block list, like I never want any of my jobs to appear here, here, or here. But otherwise, you just give it to the programmatic agency. They're going to send those jobs out to places that are kind of data proven to work for that job type. And you just take a step back from it. So I think there's another element to all of this that is always used in the kind of the same breath as programmatic, but is a slightly different thing, which is kind of the pay per performance.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that's maybe confused a couple of people. So programmatic being a verb is an approach. Pay per performance is just a different way of buying the same thing. Ultimately, it's just a different way of buying candidate traffic. So most programmatic agencies like us lean towards those publishers where we can buy clicks or where we can buy applications, because what we're looking for is speed.
Yes.
Right. So we want to take jobs, get them out there.
Think of it from a duration standpoint. So you did get those 50 apps, but yet you're in a duration kind of like a spend. And then you have that person that's going to pull down jobs or put down jobs, or maybe you just keep them up there and you continue to get all these applications from individuals who are going to go directly into a black hole, right? So again, this is, I think it's not just from an efficiency standpoint, it also helps from the standpoint of user experience. If you're never going to get to those people in the first place, is it great to have them in the database? Yeah. Is it great to send them to a black hole? No, that really sucks. Right. Now you're talking about the duration piece versus performance. I believe I saw something from Chris Foreman, CEO of Appcast, where he was talking about 50%, I believe, of their buys are performance-based buys. What are you seeing in the UK? Is it pretty much the same, or is it still very heavy on the duration side?
It's predominantly duration-based.
Okay.
But what we are seeing is that duration-based media, i.e. traditional job boards, what you and I would think of as a traditional job board,
right, are
increasingly offering both options. Mm-hmm. And ultimately for us, it's about, we want to break down, we don't want to buy a £100,000 contract. We want to buy an application, and by buying in really little parcels of stuff, we can then do pick and mix in a way that we can't. So the kind of rationale for most of our clients is like in staffing firms are a classic example. Staffing firms are all about speed. So for every 20 candidates that a staffing firm has access to, 19 of them are also registered with other staffing firms that also applying directly. So for you to monetize that candidate, you've got to get them to a client super fast and then take ownership of that candidate. So you don't want to have your job on 2 job boards for 30 days. You want to have them on 30 job boards for 2 days. You want to get every candidate in the market now, and you want to shoot those all over. And speed will increasingly be like a determinant of success in recruitment advertising for staffing. It's still true for direct employers, right? You want candidates in quickly. You're a very progressive employer if you're advertising a job that you don't need to fill yet. That is not our experience of direct employer hiring. So that job should have been hired 3 weeks ago, and it's got to happen fast. So again, don't just put it on a couple of job boards because that's how the market works. Use every job board, but you just want to buy a little bit of each one.
So it's more on the transactional base as opposed to the bulk base now.
That's it. And for job boards, it's a great opportunity because there are lots of job boards for whom a direct employer might not turn around and sign off an 800 quid job advert. Yeah. But they might go, you know what, I will give you 10 quid an application. So, all right, we'll make a £1,000 pot of budget available. We're going to send that job to 30 people. Game on. So now we've got, job boards who weren't taking that sort of revenue, and actually if they're quick off the mark and the systems work, £8 budget instead of none. The difficulty in the UK market is that job boards are not set up to work at that sort of speed, generally speaking. So, you might have a job board that sends out 2 jobs by email alerts on a Monday and a Thursday. Now, in the model I just spoke about, that is only going to work if I've just given you that job 3 minutes before that email goes out, because if you wait 3 hours or a day, that budget pot has expired. You've lost the revenue opportunity. So jobs by email have to be immediate. You have to be able to bring jobs that have a lot of budget associated with it to the top of search results. We're not seeing job boards with that capability. So they're starting to be able to accept inventory, but actually what they're not able to do yet is properly make the most of the revenue opportunity that exists. And that's the change we're expected to see over 3 to 6 months, as people go, there's a lot of money on the table here. We need a little bit of dev.
Right. Well, and that's, again, a lower cost to entry.
That's it.
One of the things you said to me, Chad, was this is a quick changing landscape. Is this the sort of thing you meant, where the impact of doing this is that job boards are changing their models or having to look at their models?
Yeah, well, and I think they're also getting, one of the things, I just got off the phone with George LaRock from HR Wins. Job boards are receiving a ton of investment, right? And a lot of that is around, obviously they've been around, they have the revenue lines in place, all that other fun stuff. But what they want to do is they want to start to evolve the model, right? And evolving that model, it's really interesting. The job boards with duration-based ads want to be able to kind of like flip into do you want duration based or do you want performance? And then hopefully the whole model will flip into performance based, where, it's kind of like we're seeing Indeed do some different types of things where they're more of an aggregator search engine and they're turning into an old timey performance based job board.
Right.
So yeah, everything is changing very quickly. I mean, there's so much rapid change in this area. The biggest problem that I'm seeing is that, I say it over and over and over, talent acquisition doesn't know how to spell programmatic, let alone start having the conversation, which is why we need to have more conversations like this to demystify what's going on. Because if you're not getting to the talent fast enough, you lose them. In a market like this, you lose talent. If you lose talent, you can't get them in the seat. If you can't get them in the seat, you can't create product, you can't create service, whatever it is. You're actually negatively impacting the bottom line. And that is bad for the overall company.
You know what, the implication of saying it like that is that it's kind of the direct employer's fault. And my experience, for what it's worth in the UK, is that actually direct employers are open. They're open to new solutions and tech, and they're attending industry events, and they're looking for stuff, and they're participating in forums, and they're members of the industry bodies and whatever. Where that is failing is that the programmatic offerings are terrible at communicating the value of what this is and how it works. And they're so focused on their product and their tech and the buzzwords and the AI and the kind of like the BS that goes with this space, and then have to kind of out buzzword the next solution. And they're not going, we're still just advertising your jobs. We're still just like a media agency. It's quicker and it's easier. It's just going to take a bit less of your time, and you might save a little bit of money, but don't do it to save money. Do it because it's cheaper and it's quicker, better candidates, whatever. I don't know why. And I think it's because there were 2 kind of types of programmatic firm in the markets like us who aren't tech companies. So we use Appcast's buying platform, which is called Clickcast. Appcast, a big US firm. And we're a marketing agency. We license that tech, and then we help our clients to recruit better. However, if a lot of the firms that offer these solutions are the tech providers as well, right? They've built their proprietary tech. So they're out there selling like a tech firm. And like HR have got no shortage of bits of tech to choose from, and they all find you better candidates cheaper and whatever. And like you can't sell through that by adding buzzwords and adding complexity. You add simplicity to that process.
Well, let's talk about that landscape though, real quick, before you dive any deeper. So how there's a validation that's happening in programmatic right now. We had Appcast was bought by Stepstone. ClickIQ bought by Indeed, Parengo bought by TMP, and Recruitix bought by KRT Marketing. So there are 4 different stories.
Recruitix bought KRT Marketing.
Yeah. So there are 4 different stories there. First and foremost, Appcast bought by Stepstone, and I think they were being courted by Indeed at the same time. This is great, I think, from the Stepstone side of the house, from the UK, the EU side of the house, because Stepstone didn't have really any US revenue streams whatsoever. Now they can also start to adapt the prospect of going from duration to performance much quicker, because they have really the biggest programmatic player in the space that is now there. So yeah, Appcast is a US firm, but they're owned by a German organization, right? So what do you think about this one? What do you think from a Stepstone standpoint? How does that impact your market? Because it's in your market.
Yeah, I think I don't think the market is going to be driven by tech firms, or it would have happened 5 years ago. To be honest, the market is being driven by buyer behavior, and buyer behavior is driven by education. So in a way, these acquisitions and the headlines that it creates are raising awareness, which is leading to education, which is leading to changes in buyer behavior.
They wouldn't be buying them, though, if there wasn't behavior.
Well, I think you buy companies for a number of reasons. I think you look at like any outside of recruitment marketing, like programmatic is just default standard, any other area of marketing. Like the idea of duration based is absurd. It doesn't match value.
Can I get a battery ad for 30 days? No.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Facebook. Could I buy that? It doesn't work like that. No. So I think anyone from like with an investor hat on will go, recruitment is going to get there. And we want to be a big part of that. We want to hedge our bets against our other investments and whatever. So it's not, you make investment decisions for a range of reasons that don't necessarily relate to, kind of how they're performing in the market right now. I mean, even the US, Chad, you'll be able to remember the reference to this, but is it Mona at KRT? Austin Theater actually said that we're at like 10, 12%, I think of like US recruitment ad spend is programmatic. So in the UK, I'm literally pulling a number out of but I think it's probably 1 to 2%, something like that. But I think what we're going to see, like right now, we're going to see, like in the UK, it happens later, but then when it does happen, it happens quicker. We've got the templates, we've got the, all the working processes are kind of worked out for us. So when it happens in the UK, it's going to happen way faster than people expect.
Well, and now, go ahead.
I was going to say, could part of this be because in order to properly use programmatic, you need to use an ad agency, and that the staffing market in the UK fell out of love with ad agencies? So, well, yeah. We used to use them, didn't we? We used to use them to advertise in the Sunday Times, our jobs in the Sunday Times. You would never book an ad direct with the Sunday Times. And then when job boards came on the scene, that relationship was still there until it became apparent that, broadly speaking, you could just book an advert with Monster. Why would you not? So I wonder whether a lot of recruitment businesses and HR people, unless they've been around for at least 20 years, don't understand the relationship with that ad agency. I don't know.
I think that's spot on. Like it is not normal now to go to an ad agency to buy your media, and yet there's some brilliant like media agencies, like OME for example. Love those guys. You want to buy a job board advert or whatever, go to those guys, and they can handle the admin and they can handle everything else for you. And they can add value. Like, where should I place this job? Particularly if it's a role that you haven't seen come up recently. It's like, where is the best place in market to put this job? But actually, that's the minority of ad agencies. And most ad agencies add about 0 to that process, right? And that's why we stopped doing that. So it's like, I was going to, place a job with, whoever ad agency comes in. No, we'll do that for you. Like, what? Where was the value add there? And because agencies didn't make money out of it properly. So, it's fine when you're buying a £10,000 like Guardian tiny advert saying, we'll make 20% of that as agency commission. That model doesn't work when you're buying like a, £20 job advert or a £200 job advert. So the ad agencies didn't want to do it. The direct employers didn't see the value in it. But now with something like programmatic coming into the market, we can start to add value again, because
Yes.
what you need is data, you need buying power, you need scale, and you need real expertise. And we're one of many companies that are developing that. And, all the good recruitment ad agencies will develop this sort of capability over the next 12 months, whether it's sooner or later, because it's absolutely core. And it's a great win-win. As ad agencies, we can charge for our expertise. It's a win for us. And for the people that we're doing it for, they're not spending 1.6 million a month. They're all data. It's clear value adds, for them. So hopefully the perspective, the resurgence of agencies adding, ad agencies adding value to that market again.
Well, you see Parengo's bought by AIA, TMP and AIA. So, you see that is something obviously they're investing in, because from a full holistic digital strategy, this is something that you're going to need as the tip of the spear, no question, right? And then Recruitix, who I thought was interesting, they went from a tech vendor, kind of like Appcast, into an agency type of a model, but KRT Marketing, who's a pure marketing ad agency, they were really focused heavily on the programmatic side of the house, and Recruitix buys them. So it's like, either an agency buying tech or tech buying agencies. You can see that there is a huge need. And I think that right now, more than any other time in our industry, you should have an agency helping you out through this, because if you don't know what the hell you're doing. I mean, you literally from I'm sure, from a programmatic standpoint, from a brand standpoint, from an experience standpoint, from a tech stack standpoint, right? It's never been this confusing and or exciting for geeks like us. But I mean, if you don't have an agency and you don't see this validation in the market that's actually happening, you've got your head in the sand.
Yeah. Can I ask one more question, which is why aren't people like Broadbean and Idaboo doing this? Is this not a natural thing for those multi-posters to be doing?
Career builder.
Don't start.
It's a good question. One would think that with the reach that a company like Broadbean has, because in my analogy earlier, right, like manual job posting, Broadbean job posting, programmatic job posting, like, who's the leader in that space? Do the dev, flick the switch, make it happen.
But no. In the States, do you see that at all? Chad, is there any of the multi-posters doing this?
Oh, yeah, no. And for some reason, I mean, if you see a company like Broadbean, who is owned by CareerBuilder is not investing in anything.
No.
So I feel sorry for Dom and the team over there, because I think they have a great opportunity to be able to leverage the technology and the relationships that they already have in place. They have infrastructure in place that they could literally, again, as Thomas said, flip a switch and then everything just rolls from there. But CareerBuilder isn't looking at investing. They're looking at chopping up and selling at this point. The eQuests of the world, I think they just got fat and happy. I mean, most of the job distribution organizations, much like Monster, we saw this with Monster, they didn't evolve. And what happened to Monster? They fell off the mountain. I see the same thing happening for those organizations who aren't evolving fast enough, and they believe duration and spray and pray is the only way to do it.
No, well, I think it's exceptionally weird, but perhaps we better move on from me slagging off people who might at some point be my clients.
Well, they probably need a little Louise, that's for sure, because they're not doing a great job.
They've got no budget to spend. So what do we need to do to get started then, Thomas? I mean, obviously, it's really apparent you need to work with an agency. It sounds like you can do it yourself, but it would be an awful lot of time. It wouldn't feel very automated if you were doing it all yourself.
Well, okay, let's look at what that would look like then. So you could reach out to a programmatic tech company, and if you're a big corporate, a big staffing firm, and you've got a good internal marketing team with biddable people, like paid search people in it, like this is not outside the realms of possibility to do in-house. This is not rocket science. It's the same basic principles as any kind of biddable media buying thing. So you could buy a bit of tech. You need a person to run that for most, staffing firms or direct employers. The difficulty is that licensing that tech is expensive. Mm-hmm. And what the bit you're missing is kind of the broader data piece and the broader industry experience. So it's definitely possible. The reality is that it's probably cheaper and easier to use an agency as in the market as it stands right now. But we're at immaturity with the tech. So I mean, it might be the ATS vendors roll out, programmatic bolt-ons to their solution, and actually you're getting the tech for virtually nothing, and then all you need is a little bit of so this market might change, but certainly in its immature state right now, a helping hand probably goes a long way. Obviously, we've got a slightly biased viewpoint on that. I think that in terms of first steps, it's very trialable, it's very pilotable. It's the whole point is it's not committing. It's like we work on like 0 day notice periods. Like if you don't like it, pay it. But because we're not committing to huge media contracts up front, and the setup with a client is really quite minimal. So we're happy to kind of put that work up front, get a little pilot running. So that's probably a good starting point.
What do you think, Chad? What's your sense about how we get started on this?
I think it's fairly simple. I'm a dumb white guy. I like it to keep it simple, stupid. It's fairly, you call an agency, you don't understand what's going on. You start to look for individuals who understand this. Again, this is why I think KRT marketing was so brilliant. You can either try to do everything and not do anything great, or really focus heavily on one area. And Mona and Ryan and the team over there, they focused on just programmatic, being that face of programmatic. And that was one of the reasons why I believe Recruitix bought them, because they were the ad agency that was really could be the face to that technology. But we've talked about Appcast, ClickIQ, Parengo, and Recruitix. What are the other players out there that you see, Thomas? I see JobEdX, PandoLogic, and Jovio. Who else is out there? I mean, it doesn't seem like there are a lot of choices.
I mean, we're behind that, I think, in the UK. Like we don't have kind of 8 vendors beating down the doors of kind of corporates and big staffing firms. The reality is 2 or 3 companies are probably visible in the market. I mean, most people heard of ClickIQ. They did this fantastic 2 years of kind of PR. They were at every event that you turned up at. Richard was speaking, and that worked great, right? They've got really good kind of. Most people know who more people know ClickIQ are than know Talent Nexus are. That's for sure. So they're probably kind of the best known. I mean, if you're already working with, the TMPs of the world, I'm sure they've been very vocal about like the Parengo acquisition and what that means for their clients. But it is OME, another good example. So they quietly, understatedly do their thing, but like really credible agency and do loads in the programmatic space now. I mean, the companies you're talking about are kind of like tech firms, first and foremost, for the most part. Whereas, like, I guess the noise in the UK comes from the ad agencies, and maybe to an extent that reflects kind of the maturity in the UK market. You need more support, you need more whatever.
What's the difference in the ad agencies, though? I mean, because the tech is the tech, and in most cases, you're not going to touch the tech when you're working with an ad agency. Like I said earlier, KRT really focused heavily on programmatic, and they were the face of like a programmatic agency in the US. In the UK, how do you actually at Talent Nexus or one of the other agencies, how do you, if I'm a client, everybody's going to say they do programmatic, but how do I discern who I really want to work with on the stream of programmatic?
It's a good question. So the first thing you're looking for is absolute transparency. What you do not want to be buying through is some sort of like network. So I want to know where my job exists. And like, I want a list of all the places that job has been sent to and where I've accrued spend. So complete transparency. You want complete transparency over agency commission. So that the commercials of this world mean that, some of the people we spend money with give us a kickback. Some of them don't. If we're not completely transparent about how that works, there's a risk that we make decisions that are in our best interest as an agency. Mm-hmm. So you need complete transparency. So you ask the people you're working with, what where have you spent my money? What is the the agency commission that you get? Are you going to pass that back to me as the buyer? Are you guys going to keep that? There's nothing wrong with that. It just means I have to pay you less, but I want to know exactly what it is and how it works. Right. So like in a world that's already a little bit cloudy and has the potential to be complicated, absolute transparency, that's the number one criteria. Above and beyond that, it's what it always is. It's relationships. Like if you find a company with whom you've got a really good relationship, with whom you share values, approach, whatever, that's probably 90% of it. You're not going to find a huge amount of difference in terms of cost. Like it costs a certain amount to do this stuff. Most agencies are going to charge that sort of money. So it's about the relationship. In some cases, you might find an agency that kind of is already integrated from a tracking and analytics perspective. That would be handy. Someone whose tech integrates with your ATS. The tech that we use, I think, has more kind of ATS and staffing firm integrations than anyone else. It's one of the things we talk about, but it's not the end of the world if it doesn't, but it's a bit quicker. So they're kind of the sorts of things you're looking at. But ultimately, you need someone that can just sit you down for a couple of hours, with no upfront cost, and just go, tell me how this works for my jobs, for my situation, for my budgets. How does this work for me? What are the benefits I'm going to see? So that's where I'd start if I was looking around the market.
Excellent. Well, we've taken 40 minutes of your time to be on the show. We really appreciate it. Thomas Prince, Talent Nexus, where can people find more out about you and all this programmatic fun stuff that you guys do?
That is a good question. I'll put my email address down here.
Yeah.
That's a good start.
Yeah.
I'm more than happy to speak with anyone. So the best thing to do, just reach out directly to me. If you're in a bit of a sector or something that I don't know much about, it might be that someone on my team is a better place to help you. But I'd love to have an initial chat and maybe we go from there.
You have a website though, right?
Oh, we do have we have a website. So you can find us at talentnexus.com.
There you go. Excellent. Yeah, check with Alex. Make sure you got that.
I got a little. Here he is over here. He won't thank me for putting him on screen.
Alex is the man, just so everybody knows.
He's the man that gets my cool mic thing working.
It worked. Thomas and his team will be with us at our event on the 13th of November as well, and at the Job Board Summit on the 7th and 8th of November. So if you actually want to meet him face to face, that's where he'll be.
Excellent. Hopefully he'll have his cowboy hat and boots on.
Oh, I hope so.
Don't do it.
No, okay. So, Chad, you and I will be back next month talking about something that's hot. We don't even know what it's going to be yet. Do you remember?
No.
Well, exactly. So we're back. I can't remember when. Sometime in November. I'll share the link below as well. Thanks ever so much for getting up early for me, Chad. I appreciate it. Thanks for joining.
Not a problem.
Thanks for joining us, Thomas. And we'll see
everybody
next
time. Always a pleasure.
My very blurry screen. The sun is shining here. We'll be back shortly.
Which is not normal.
No, not at all. See you all soon. Thanks so much.
See you guys.
Bye.
Later.